Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Digital Marketing Podcast. As always, the one and only Alex joining me today. Hi, Alex. How are you today?
Hey Rocco, hey everyone. Great. How about you?
Oh, I've been doing great, man. Getting ready for my trip to Boston and working my week off. As always, I'm sure we just talked a little bit about work right before this live, and you've been very busy as well. So it has been a good summer, Alex. But today, like we are talking about really optimizations, right? Optimization of AdWords campaigns, but we would like to keep it like a little bit more in depth. Alex, before we get started on the topics, I would say probably optimization is the most critical task when it comes to AdWords, right? Setting it up correctly is 50% of the job, but the other 50% is a pretty demanding task, right?
I think that is part of why you and I do what we do for companies. It's not the setting up, it's actually making sure that things are working and that we get the right information out of it.
That's true,
Um,
and it's true. And sometimes, I've been working on so many accounts where small details really made a difference for them, which is why the first topic I want to cover is data exclusion, right, on Google. This is something that I already covered it in a few videos online, but I'm shocked that data exclusion is not something that everybody knows about and is such a hidden feature within Google. For those of you that are listening in but are not familiar with data exclusion is nothing more than telling Google to ignore data coming either from all devices or from a specific device or for a specific campaign when it comes to optimizing your account. So you can tell Google, I do not care about this data. Now, you might say, why don't I care about data? Well, Alex and I know very well mistakes can happen with developers, or mistakes can happen whenever you transition from Google Analytics to GA4 and all of a sudden your conversion tracking goes wacko. Alex, like, what's your point of view on data exclusion? Like, I don't know how much you use it, but I feel like it's pretty relevant within the AdWords ecosystem.
Within the Google Ads system, yeah, no, for sure. I think um, depending on sort of where also in what state of affairs a certain company may be, it might actually be that you don't want to include, say, all all geolocations. You want to be very specific. You don't want to target and be very explicit in terms of say, keywords. You can see that keywords aren't really working in the best possible way. So I think like data exclusion is such a big topic just on its own. So it's like going down to the near details. It's almost like a topic of its own.
And
Meaning half an hour, 45 minutes.
no, of course, Alex, but my thought is, why do you think that data exclusion is not something that is currently being used on other platforms like Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, right? Wouldn't that be a feature that everybody would need to use on those platforms? Because, if your pixel breaks, Facebook right now doesn't give you the option to tell the system something went wrong with your pixel.
Yeah, it's actually a very good, valid point. I've never really thought about it because it's starting to feel that I'd say like bigger advertisers are now starting to sort of, I guess, go like what Google Ads is also prompting, trust the algorithm. And if you have a bit of a breakup, like say for a week or two or a month, it doesn't really matter because you have enough data for us to sort of be able to steer the ship. But I don't believe that is the case.
Yeah, and for those of you guys that are curious about data exclusion, I would like to quickly show you how to take care of that. All you got to do is to click on Tools settings within Google AdWords. When you do there, you're gonna click on Bid Strategies. Then once you're in Bid Strategies, you go on Advanced Control and Data Exclusion. You can create a data exclusion giving a name, a start time, and end time for your exclusion, the campaign type or specific campaigns, and then you can also select by device, because let's not forget you could have issues on a specific device. So it's a pretty easy process, very hidden as you guys have seen, but it is there. So feel free to take advantage of it. And if anybody from Facebook is listening, you guys might want to do something similar, since Facebook Pixel has been pretty dramatic over the past year or so with the iOS 14 update and the data privacy. But enough about data exclusion, Alex. I would like to talk about portfolio bidding. Like portfolio bidding, as a quick introduction, usually was referred to in the past as shared budget. That was the name that Google had for it. You shared the budget, that was your portfolio bidding. But now portfolio bidding has been expanding into, okay, I can group campaigns together with a ROAS goal or with a target cost per conversion goal. So the whole concept here is having the AI make something that can optimize multiple campaigns, allocating the budget where you are more likely to generate a good performance. Alex, what's your take on portfolio bidding?
I mean, I'm still doubtful, and in the big picture, as like with two PMax, it still is this aspect where you're giving a bit we covered one topic, and you may not always be sure that all the data that you're feeding into the algorithm is accurate, and therefore the ROAS is not okay. So there are so many elements that could go wrong into this, and but I understand there's a benefit of it, and it is to save time, and it's to be able to simplify things, and I think it is for people to get going. But I think again, like, this is something that people are very open to buying the pig in the bag, meaning they said, oh, I'm doing ROAS. Let's only optimize on ROAS and sort of portfolio bidding, and rather than switching to a different type of bidding structure or offering to be able to see sort of and actually experiment. Because
Yeah.
I think one shouldn't buy everything that is sort of being told. And so I've done a couple of these where I've experimented with sort of ROAS. I've done a couple of the other ones, but I mean, at times, I mean, even enhanced CPC alternative has actually turned out to be the best option for our clients.
Yeah, no, that
And I
makes
mean,
sense. And Alex, one thing that I feel like stressing when it comes to portfolio bidding is the word temptation. What do I mean by that? Google is going to show you a nice screen where your target ROAS and your actual ROAS, and you can edit your target ROAS very easily. So a couple of clicks, you change your target ROAS, you're good to go. There is a problem with that. Uh, Google also tells us that every new bidding strategy requires at least 14 days to perform at the good level. So anytime you make a change to those portfolio bidding strategies, you are effectively delaying the learning phase of your campaigns. With that said, though, they don't tell you that. They tell you when you talk to a rep, maybe for a larger client. So technically, people that are using that and changing it constantly, they never exit the learning phase of the bidding strategy. Uh, I do think that's a weakness of portfolio bidding, because it gives you the temptation to play around with those numbers, right?
I mean, I think you hit the hammer on the nail. And I think it is that fact of never sort of stepping out of a learning phase. Um, that is, but I think they're very much playing on the human instinct or emotion that it's simple and it's easy and it's easy accessible, and you can very easily sort of show and tell that this is what I've set up with the intent to do this.
Yeah, no,
Um,
I agree. And I feel like, it would be nice. And that's something that hopefully one day is going to happen in digital marketing, which is those platforms, they should have almost like a guided tour on each of their interfaces, because it would be nice when you are, for example, in the portfolio bidding section, where there is a little pop-up window when you're trying to change something. Oh, by the way, performance is going to increase or get stability within 14 to 21 days from making a change. So we recommend sticking to a bidding strategy so the system can learn. It kind of educates users that maybe are not as familiar with the platform, you know?
I mean, I think being critical in terms of platform that you use, and also knowing Google and Google Ads, and how much money that the Alphabet is making out of this and its dominance. It's no self-interest for them to educate its users in the big picture. It's goodwill, but having a lot of not knowledgeable people on the platform is beneficial to them as well.
Oh, that is
Uh,
true. I mean, that's why they're going full automation, right, in the platform. They're like, let Google do our work. Oh, that's interesting, though. But there is something we almost have still control of. Why do I say almost? Search term reports, right? Google has been pushing a lot of PMAX campaigns right now, which do not offer a search term report, but search campaigns still do. Now, that would be a topic on its own, right? Like anytime now I jump into auditing a new account, all I see is PMAX on accounts that really make no sense to have a PMAX on. But regardless of that, right, whenever they do run search campaign, there is a search term report. Search term report that it is true. The more your campaign is automated, the quote unquote cleaner it gets. Like you get less negatives, long tails that can be added will pop up more. But on the other hand side, campaigns like PMAX do not offer you a search term report. They don't offer you negative keywords, right? So when it comes to a search term report, my personal take on that is I have a few ground rules. Ground rule number one, when it comes to negative keywords, I have a cost per click where I feel like I need to monitor a keyword. So let's say an account has an average CPC of $1. Any keyword costing more than $1, even if it gets one click, I want to see what keyword that is, because these add up. So you might find 10 keywords to make negative, and it saves you $10 a week, let's say. But on the other hand side, I also like to focus on the 80-20 rule, where I look for 20% of those negatives that end up costing 80% of my wasted budget, and vice versa on the positive keywords, so to say, or the long tail keywords. But in terms of search term reports, the use of that tool has been decaying over time because of automation, right? Automation has made it easier to manage them. Do you recommend any specific filters or any specific to-do list for anybody that might be wanting to run a search term report?
I mean, I think it's. I think you're very good at in terms of like the 80-20. I think where I've sort of found, because PMAX campaigns is still a relatively black box. It doesn't give much insights in terms of what people are searching for, and particularly I think when we start talking industries, when we're going into sort of broader industries, we can go more exact, and we can do a lot more sort of, I would say, like upfront research to sort of get things going without needing to expose ourselves too much in terms of a negative keyword list. We don't have to go in with broad. And while, say, we go into a very niche category with very few searches. And I mean, this search term report you can both see in the keyword planner, but you will also be able to see in terms of simple organic searches, sort of combining SEO and SEM. But I've used broad, and it's particularly there. I go broad because I don't actually know what the end user is searching for, because it could be an abundance of variations. So it's actually, in terms of, I guess, rules, I've very much used more industry, where I know sort of, say, e-com, I go very specific and more detailed upfront. And I have a relatively clear negative keyword list that I wanted to set up upfront to avoid that as well, in terms of seeing them appearing in the search query report, which is like You can do it either way around. Either you set up free as a negative keyword and sort of add that towards all your campaigns, or you allow that to sort of appear on your search, like your search query report, inside. So I think it very much there's I think like there's still no golden rule that I've found that sort of works best. I think it's bigger industries where there's a lot of queries and a lot of information up front, a lot more pre-work can be done.
Yeah.
Uh, while something that is more niche, that don't have that many search queries, and you can't do that much, pre-work, and therefore you need to enter sort of a discovery phase, and almost like if you work with, I mean, either it's your own budget or a client's budget. I think it's very clear that you need to communicate also this to client that, hey, this is the situation we're in, and why we are doing this for the X amount of period is because things will get better. And up until now, no one has done this for you. So there's no data, there's no legacy, there's nothing we can actually look back at and see.
Yeah,
Um,
I think like for the search term reports, something that would be cool to see in the future is the possibility for Google to do almost like a pivot table on search term reports where they group those terms by family of terms. So you can actually see, okay, whenever this family of terms shows up, oh, I'm not converting well. I think that would be a cool upgrade, but they're actually going the other direction where you do not need the search term report. So I guess that's a discussion for another day at Google, right?
I mean, but I think like then we're very exposed to the data that we're because PMAX is. I mean, we spoke about it already in terms of data exclusion. I mean, depending on how you set up your GA4, will have a direct impact on how your Google ads are set up, and therefore your PMAX will only be as good as your implementation of your GA4 to a greater extent because
Yeah.
you're only feeding that data. And I mean, we still do a lot of sort of Google Tag Management, the GA4 sort of double checks and fixes.
Yeah,
And there's, I would say, like 95% haven't figured that out yet properly.
I agree.
And so you see, like this P max is becoming the snowball effect of where yes, some advertisers will get an upper hand, but there's quite a few that will lose a lot of its value, or a lot of its sort of performance if they put all their eggs in the P max basket.
I
Um,
agree. I agree. And
another
that makes a very good point on that. And actually, I feel that data and accessibilities to that to data is going to be always at the center of the success of a business. Like I've never seen a business in my life where you don't give data to the business and the business does better. It's usually the opposite. The more data you give to a business, the better performance you get.
I mean, I guess I'm this fan of understanding what data you need, and not an abundance of data. Because I've also worked with clients that have
Too much
wanting
data.
too much data, and they don't actually know what they're going to do with it, but they're very confident because they have all this data that they're going to use it for something.
Yeah, and I mean, half of the work is getting the data, but the other half is knowing how to use the data and what models to use that data. So I think like you make a good point there. Google is trying to make it very simple for companies to use that data. Actually, Google uses the data for them, but it would be nice to also know what the data is, because maybe I can make a decision for another of my channels with that data, but I need to have it to do that.
I mean, we would be able to, and I think like that. I mean, a good example is a company that does extremely well on SEO. prior, like with the search query report, together with a simpler type of setup in terms of campaign than PMax, and you're able to balance paid and SEO in a good way, so you don't overspend on relative sort of
Yeah.
keywords, and all of a sudden when PMax comes, because like it's being switched on. I mean, what is the first term they go for? Well, this brand.
Yeah.
And then secondly, we'll go for all the other sort of search queries that are related to where you are relatively high up organically to sort of top three. So they start eating itself down, and your SEO, while you paid goes up like that, and your spend keeps going, your SEO goes up, goes down the opposite. So and
Yeah, and I
and
feel like you raise an extremely good point, because one of the topics today we're going to talk about is optimizing SEO for better SEM results, right? But here, like, I was facing the same exact issue you were facing. I was like, how can I stop PMax from getting the brand terms? Because let's be honest, I you don't need a smart AI to know that you're gonna convert on brand terms, right? Like, that's pretty much obvious. So here I did find one solution for the issue. It is a very quote unquote creative solution, though, Alex. So here's the deal. PMax needs to respect the account authority, meaning that or hierarchy, sorry, more than authority. Campaigns count less than account. Ad groups count less than campaigns. Keywords count less than the ad groups, and so on, right? So here's what I came up with. I had a client that was running a PMax, and all of a sudden, brand terms, like, it looked like we were doing great. I was like, yeah, but I don't care about the brand terms. So here is what we did. We created two accounts on Google Ads. One account called client name brand, and one account called client name non-brand. On the client name non-brand, I created an account negative list with all the variation of the company name. Now PMax cannot bid on the brand name because they need to respect the account level negative keywords. That's the only way to trick PMax not to do that. But it took me some thinking, because I was like, how can I stop that? There must be a way. Well, you cannot put negative on PMax, so I put them at the account level. The double-edged sword, you need to have two accounts, because the moment you do that, if you ever want to run a brand campaign, now you cannot, because it's going to stop that campaign from running.
I mean, super smart, and I mean, great that you have such a good relationship with clients as well. That they're willing to allow you to experiment a bit as well. But I mean, it's a strong point. I mean, have you shared this besides this conversation prior, or in conversations that you had? Have you written it, shared it? I mean, this is super valuable.
Written now, simply because I like to share it with our listeners first. That's like, that's why they're listening. But that is the only one strategy I have found so far. And the client, usually they might be like, oh, why do I need another account? It's like, look, if you want to run a brand campaign, you need a different account, because that's the only way we're going to run it. And usually the reason why I run a brand campaign is not even to run campaigns on my brand name, because they usually rank, but people are looking for reviews, company name, scam, company name, whatever. So because they always do their search, so we want to make sure that those we can control with specific links. Let's say somebody is looking for your company reviews. Well, you want to make sure that you drive them to the proper reviews, because sometimes competitors can be pretty nasty out there. But yeah, like, I mean, that worked out ever since. I'm like, okay, this is a good way. But that doesn't only apply to brand, right? Let's say that you do not want to cannibalize your top performing search campaign with PMax, and you want to use PMax to find additional traffic. Well, you can create a PMax only AdWords account and exclude your top keywords from that account at the account level, right? There are multiple reasons and multiple strategies that you can use the double account for.
Yeah, and I mean, often, I mean, that is the difficulty, and I think advertisers or business owners don't really see the value, but understanding the full sort of synergy of the two organic that you've probably worked extremely hard on to sort of become number one, number two, number three, and sort of take 80% of all the free traffic and sort of own that category or that niche or that particular topic is extremely strong. And but it's so easy, especially if you hire a third party, say an agency, to do this. What will they go for? They will start cannibalizing directly on that, because it's not like you in this instance thinking like the bigger picture. Of course, we don't want to sort of I guess create dirty data by
Yeah.
mixing in and blending in the wrong type of information or data points into sort of algorithm, because you'll not do very well in the
I
long run.
I agree. And talking about data, Alex, there is one piece of data where I get the most questions, and it's funny because it's usually a piece of data that should be easy to look at, which is the auction insights. Now, I'm gonna quickly show what an auction insight report looks like. And for those of you that are listening in a podcast, I will just read the columns for you. But an auction insight is nothing more than a table that tells you how you're doing from a performance standpoint. What do I mean by that? It's going to give you an impression share, which is nothing more than how many times you are appearing for every 100 searches of your terms. It is going to show you an average position, which has been removed recently, an overlap rate, which tells you how many times you're showing up with any specific other competitor, the position above rate or top of page rate, where basically shows you how many times you're on top of the page, and the absolute top of the page rate, which is how many times you're position one. There is then the outranking share, which is another column that tells you how many times a competitor is outranking you, aka showing up above you. Now, the auction insight is a very useful tool. Why is it a very useful tool? First of all, you can understand how your competitors are bidding. Because if, for example, you know that with your bidding, you would need to spend more in terms of cost per conversion to get more market share, you can kind of understand more or less how much their cost per conversion is and what margins they are and what strategy they have from a business model standpoint. But more importantly, what I do for my client is I get weekly snapshot of our auction insights, and I tell them, okay, this week you were position number one and your lead quality told me was exceptional. Another week you were position two and you told me the lead quality was still exceptional. The week you were position three, you told me the lead quality was so and so. So now I start understanding the importance of my position on page, impression share, and top of page and outranking rate, and I can correlate it with how engaged those kind of clicks are. And believe it or not, one of our clients literally changed their business completely as a result of that. They used to get leads for $300. We did that experiment. We correlated the data. Turns out if he spends $900 per lead, he's getting much better leads and his profits went up 200%. So the kind of helps me tell the client, this is like a data analysis exercise, and lead quality doesn't have anything to do with lead cost. You can pay more and the quality is going to be 10 times higher, but you need to experiment, right? So that's how I use auction insights, rather than just reporting it to the client. Alex, when it comes to auction insights, given that Google also removed the average position, do you have any suggestion on ways to basically integrate what I said to make sure that people can actually take advantage of such a valuable report?
I mean, firstly, I must say kudos to you. I mean, incredible sort of data delivery in terms of getting a client to sort of change sort of the willingness of spending something that upfront will look very expensive, but actually upfront or like later on, it
It
actually
produces,
turns out to
yeah.
be a lot cheaper because of quality. So I
Yeah.
mean, well done. I mean, that's awesome.
Yeah, it takes time, but it's like people focus on the cost per lead so much, but they forget that you are competing in a bid. And first click, second click, third click, fourth click, the behavior and the type of users is completely different. They're not going to be the same person.
I mean, I think like it's also. I mean, I've used it. I mean, in less sort of complex ways, but I mean, a lot of clients they aren't familiar with us, and the reason that's why they speak to us, and they actually would like to know who else is out there, who of my competition is out there, sort of doing what we're doing, and how much estimated are they spending, and where are they, and how frequent are they, and you know they want also info because businesses they want to win. um, so I mean, so I haven't actually. I've incorporated it to sort of showcase it in sort of a easier way, more to give the insights. Often I integrate most campaigns not to focus on lead at all. We don't focus on driving leads. Our business is to sort of drive, almost like a full funnel, where then sort of includes an additional amount of conversion steps. So we would actually see directly sort of how and what is happening without needing to engage with the client.
And Alex, do you want to have a good laugh about auction insights?
Jana, tell me.
This is the most interesting way I've used it in the past 2 months. I'm not gonna make company names just because it's private stuff for them. But one day a client calls me and is like, "Rocco, we have been the company with the highest impression share for over a year now, and you told me there is no way to increase it unless we increase our target CPA. And I don't know how, but this company has a 40% market share. They just started. There is no way. They must have found a way." And I was like, "Yeah, let's look at the numbers together," right? I was like, "Look, they must be spending a lot of money and their CPA must be much higher because, it's a numbers game. Google is telling you how much more impressions you can get, right?" And I was like, I have a feeling. I have a feeling this company is a scam. And he was like, "Why would you say so?" I was like, "Because these numbers are impossible." So we called this company and we faked to be a client. Turns out this company was scamming thousands of people per week, never delivering the service. So for them, it was all profit. So they probably had a very high CPA. And they were running. They opened 3 more websites, and we were seeing our conversion suffering because now 3 fake competitors popped up. So we reached out to Google and we were like, first of all, this showed up in our auction insights. That's how we know. Secondly, we tried to deliver a service. We went online. All reviews say they're a scam. Believe it or not, it took 1 month for Google to remove this advertiser. They keep popping up with new websites every now and then, but they did everything correctly in terms of registering the business. But for whatever reason, it takes long for Google to shut them down. We eventually shut them down. But if it wasn't for Auction Insight and the fact that I'm so confident with the data that Google is giving me, where I'm like, there is no way this is possible. There's no way this is actually happening legally, we would have literally got in a place where we wouldn't know why our campaigns were not performing anymore. You're muted, Alex. You're muted.
Sorry. I mean, that's really cool. And I mean, what you're sort of mentioning now is almost like how the casino affiliate business used to be, and I guess still today is, but where you sort of run black hat SEO landing websites.
Yeah.
Where it's actually worth, because as you say, it takes Google too long of a time from discovery, even they've been reported, to actually be taken down and blacklisted, for that business to have made enough money to then move on and just start the same thing again, just under a different business and different URL.
Now, it was literally insane, Alex. And honestly, if it wasn't that I have a best practice to look at auction insights twice a week, just like, as my exercise, we wouldn't have noticed because It's not that you go check your competitors every day, right? You say, oh, there is a new competitor. But the fact that I knew the kind of performance they were getting by reverse engineering the auction insight with the use of my data, now I knew that was impossible unless somebody was so smart that I needed to retire from digital marketing, because kudos to them. I don't know how they did that, you know.
I mean, then out of curiosity, I mean, throwing the question back at you. I mean, do you have a smarter way? Because I mean, having X amount of clients, and there's a lot of, I mean, there will be a lot of accounts to go into. Do you create? Have you created a Locker report or Google Data Studio, or do you use a different type of reporting tool to gain these type of sort of data insights to sort of work on your own intuition and therefore experience?
So when it comes to auction insights, you can get the report like pulled up, right? But
Yeah.
it all comes down to really knowing your client's business, right? Because I've worked with this company, for example, for 3 years now. So I knew, and I have a very good relationship with the owner of the company, meaning that we speak almost daily because they have a very big budget as well. So I know the challenges of the company, the trouble in getting more volume, where it comes from. I know that getting more volume will come from offsite optimization to get the CPA down to then get more volume. So I have a very clear picture, right? And having a budget that was competing for like one of the top impression share in that market, I knew that we were in a position where our data was speaking the truth, meaning that our conversion rates were great. We could do small improvements, right? But I also then look at a competitor and I can kind of see what's going on there. And when I saw such a big difference, like we were at 14% impression share and we were probably spending $120,000 a month, that means that there is more market. But I also know that more market came at a CPA that is higher than what we have. And I know higher than that CPA, no company is going to be profitable in that business, right? So I'm like, okay, either this company is not sending the service to the client because there is no way to make profit, or they must have huge upsells. And that wasn't an industry with huge upsells. So where you take a loss to acquire a customer, that's all of that came down into it must be a spam, basically.
I mean, awesome revelation. And I mean, imagine the amount of businesses that do exist in the sort of on the World Wide Web today that is doing this
Oh yeah.
every day, and that keeps popping up like mushrooms. And I mean, there aren't that many Roccos sort of knowing their data that well.
Yeah, the problem, you know what it is also, those companies, they actually use, it's very interesting. They modify Google Maps photos to put the name of the company in front of the name of another company in a building. So they actually get their business as verified in the US because, you need to upload the photo sometimes on Google Maps. It's like crazy. But long story short, the interesting part is that we are the only one that know this in the whole industry. And what we did helped another 10 companies that they didn't know what was going on. And I could see their investment going down on Google because their conversion was suffering. And the moment we fixed that, you could see their investment going up all of a sudden, So they didn't realize what happened. Hopefully nobody got fired from, the marketing department over that. But because, you see low performance, you blame marketing.
Oh wow, and very cool. And I mean, in the short term, I mean, you took a hit or a beating as well. But in the long, I mean, obviously, in the long term, you proved to be right.
Yeah, it was crazy, man. And then Google was very responsive. But quick update I wanted to share with you, Alex. I don't know if you have been like following that, but Google Optimize, which is a very cool tool. It basically install a code on your site, you do an A/B test, pull the data from GA4 or Universal, and it tells you which landing page is performing the best. I started using Google Optimize 10 years ago, and I switched from Visual Website Optimizer, which was a tool that did something similar, but you paid for VWO, Google Optimize was free. Now, all of a sudden, September 30th, Google Optimize is going to be discontinued. Initially, Google was talking about moving it to GA4, but I spoke with a few Google reps in the last few weeks. There is no immediate plan. Google recommended me Visual Website Optimizer as one of the many platforms that they recommended. And I was like, damn, we are moving backward, not forward with Google, right?
Oh,
And
wow.
I was shocked by that. I logged in my account, fair enough, September 30th, last day of Google Optimize.
I
Now,
mean,
can somebody explain me what happened?
I've been using Optimizer as well for long,
Yeah.
and I mean, for the type of experiments that I think you and I are required to do, sort of not multivariable, sort of very you know advanced type of testing, it's perfect,
Yeah.
and it gives like the indication of minimal viable test. So I mean, why are they doing this?
I have no
Um,
idea. I initially thought data policies, but no, data is in Google Analytics. So you fix that, you can use Optimize. I
But
have no idea.
I don't know. I don't know if you saw this, and I mean, this doesn't have anything to do with the topic that we're talking about. But you up until today, and you could buy your domain names via Google. Google
Yeah.
had the hosting, everything. They, they've sold that right to someone else.
Oh, that's interesting.
So I think like it might be a way for Alphabet or the mother company and Google to really streamline and focus on the core business, and then experiments not being it. Again,
I have
aside
no
from
idea, honestly. Like the message reads, Google Optimize will no longer be available after September 30th. Your experiences can continue to run until that date. We remain committed to enabling businesses of all sizes to improve your user experience and are investing in A/B testing in Google Analytics 4. But there is not going to be an immediate transition. So my thought is they are moving it there, but they haven't done it yet. So there's probably going to be a few month gap. Hopefully they move it to GA4. But I'm like, if I was a company and launching a new product, I would make the switch like, like they did with Universal and
yeah,
GA4.
I mean it's because I thought that was a great way for them to in the bigger picture also make use of the cloud, because a lot of that type of information, I mean, we used, and I mean, I've been using together with some of the enterprise clients that I worked with to really go back in history as well and look back at experiment results, and sort of reevaluate of what we're doing and why we're doing it, not just from a conversion optimization standpoint, but very much from a UX standpoint and sort of user flow.
Yeah,
Um,
no, it would be interesting. I honestly like something it would need to be looked at, but hopefully Google, when I asked them for an opinion, they told me they don't have internally any update on when it's going to be available on GA4. And that's as much as I was able to get. So I signed up for another tool now in the meantime.
But
But
it's so strange because I had another chat with Google the other day, and it was about Google Cloud, and all of a sudden Google Cloud and all the tools that are connected to Google Cloud is going to be cloud agnostic, meaning you can connect to the AWS. It
anymore,
doesn't
right?
matter. So basically, I guess so, I guess old people like you and me that have been part of the game for so long now, and being used to Google being Google, is it's no longer the same Google. And
I
they're
know.
doing a shift and changes. And I mean, let's see where we land.
Yeah, let's see how that goes, Alex. But one more thing, we're running out of time, so we are just gonna cover this topic briefly, which is landing page optimization. Alex, if you were to give somebody 3 pointers on here is what you probably need to optimize on your landing page without looking at the page, right? What would you think are the most common changes that have the biggest impact for your clients?
Less information is more information, so it's to the point. Clear call to action, and and I'd say that instead of having a lot of imagery, focusing on people, And I would actually add, depending on what you're trying to sell, but I think most businesses are people businesses. People buy. Testimonials is key. So some way that can validate that you are you, and that other people have bought from you. So I'd say, like, keep it simple, keep it clear, keep and sorry, the fifth one as well. You limited me. Have you sort of your lead form at the top, and I think the learnings that I've had, for each individual field you add to your lead form, is that you drop with about 33% in conversion rate. So be very sort of conscious about what information you need from your leads up front.
No, that makes total sense. Those are very good points. I feel like a lot of it looks basic, but people are not doing that. Not all of them are, which is kind of interesting, right? Like that's something so simple that would help you so much that is not being implemented.
No, I mean, I've noticed that there's a lot of, business, especially particularly business owners, that they become so familiar with what they look at on an everyday basis. Like they're so used to seeing the forest, so they don't see the trees anymore, and they can't really resell it to someone new.
You know,
And I
that's
think, like,
very interesting because whenever I speak to a lead that tells me we already have a marketing team, I'm like, that's good. I'm happy for you, right? But it wouldn't harm me to have somebody every now and then look at things with a fresh pair of eyes because we get stuck in our own ways. And that's like a truth. And you're muted, Alex.
no, always. I mean, that's also why I love sort of stepping in. I mean, with a new client, I mean, that you have a lot of opportunity to make impact, in a good way. And I mean, I think, like, you are able to do quite a bit for on your first 90 days,
Yeah.
and sort of really flagging those out, but constantly be conscious about that the wheel can be rounder. You can always do things slightly better. So incremental changes, and I mean, that's what saddens me now about Optimizer, that you need to now go for a tool that might cost a bit more money than
Yeah.
free.
Yeah, of course. And that's going to be taking some convincing on the clients now. But Alex, my 3 points would be, and I'm going to try to make them different from yours so we don't repeat things for our listeners. It would be add as many ways to get in contact with the company as possible. So not have only a form, but have a phone number, a chat. If you want to have a WhatsApp, possibly add it if your business supports it, because not every person is comfortable with a specific way to contact the company. Me personally, I never give companies a phone call. I hate being on the phone and then they try to sell me something, so I always prefer email communication. Some people do like to call. My second advice would probably be something regarding micro conversions. Let's say that your product or service is something that might cost some money, and you're asking people to commit to the highest level possible and just met you. I say be happy with the first step of a conversion, right? So offer people to also go the longer route, because now you still get the information of that person, but they're not asking themselves to buy stuff already. And last but not least is what I learned in my first class in marketing in college, which is the 5 Ws, the 1 H. Your page needs to answer why, what, where, when, and how. If you don't do that, how do people understand your benefits and features, right? So don't expect people to just know the business the way you do, but spell it out for them. That would be my 3 most common issues that I find on landing pages.
I mean, super wise. And I mean, I like the micro conversions side of things. And I think in today's world, I think also with a lot more touch points and a lot more, um, I'd say that showing that you care about your prospects and soon to be clients is key, and really add value to them.
No, I agree, Alex. And I mean, like, for those of you guys that you like what Alex is saying, uh, you can feel free to contact Alex. It's Alex at yourdigitalassembly.com. I've been working with Alex literally like, oh, we worked for over 10 years now almost. Like when I was in Italy and you were working in Switzerland.
In Switzerland.
Yeah, you
And
were in Switzerland.
LA.
And I was in Parma, Italy. Now Alex is in South Africa, and I'm in Fort Lauderdale. So I don't know how we ended up that way, but we know each other for quite some time. So if you want good marketing advice, Alex is incredibly good, and he has a team that I really adore. Of course, remember to follow Alex on LinkedIn as well. Today we were able to fill up 50 minutes of content. We could have gone for another hour, but we're gonna cover it in our next episodes. Alex, thank you so much for joining.
Rocco, always a pleasure. I mean, looking forward to the next one.
Oh, absolutely. We're going to plan the dates shortly. And guys, thank you so much for listening in. Follow the Digital Marketing Podcast on all the podcast platform out there. We always repost our episodes. And if you have any question, contact either of us. We're always happy to answer them right away, guys. Bye-bye. Have a good day.
Ciao.